Hello, hello. Happy Wednesday evening. It is the middle of game week and the night that we do our preview show. I'm joined by Will Thomas of Tailgate Talk SEC, and of course, more recently, a peek inside the SEC, a peek inside the Gators. You've been all over our channels. Will, how are you today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. Okay, so we are both glutton for punishments because we are both going to Gainesville this weekend to watch this game. What are your overall thoughts on Texas?
I mean, in like full context aside, if you had told people a month ago that Texas was going to be 3-1 coming into this game, like nobody would really be concerned, right?
Sure.
Because they lose to Ohio State, they win the three cupcakes. That's fine. The
Yeah.
issue's been how they've gotten there
Yeah.
because you only scored 7 against Ohio State, 30 on San Jose, 27 on UTEP. Your defense has only given up 31 points all year, but
Yeah.
just the way that the sport goes, when your defense is so much better than your offense, people just complain because it's more boring. It feels like you're not quite as explosive, not as fun to watch. I mean, this team is still the fourth most talented team in the country per 24/7, which isn't gospel, but I mean, if you look at the teams
Yeah.
at the top of that list compared to playoff berths, like it matters.
Pretty accurate.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, Texas, it's hard to really be concerned about them because overall 3-1 is not the problem. And that team, I think it just needed a little more time to get going because of all the hype around them in the preseason.
So, not unlike Florida, Texas's quarterback, Arch Manning, has not been off to a great start. And I do think it's important to talk about context of this game, but, overall college football as well. Arch Manning was labeled as, the heir apparent right alongside DJ Lagway. Both of these guys were guys that were predicted to be in New York. Shoot, I predicted Lagway would be in New York over the summer. And when we talked about this game prior to the season starting, that is what we focused on. This, uh, you know, incredible quarterback of the future game. We were going to see the two hottest names in college football go at it. And that's not what we've gotten so far from either quarterback, although Arch Manning did figure some things out. It was against Sam Houston. So, I
Mm.
mean, do with that what you will. But what do you think Arch's issue has been?
I think it's a combination of a few things. So obviously the jump up in competition, because when he was in high school, he was not playing at like the elite level of high school that a
Sure.
lot of some of these guys out there do. So obviously high school to the SEC, there's a pretty big gap there. And
Yeah.
then, from the first few games of the year, it seemed like he wasn't 100%. A lot of grimacing when he was throwing, maybe not fully confident. The biggest one I think was just expectations, because 21-year-olds are not supposed to have this many eyes and this much pressure on them, especially if you're at quarterback, which is the position really of each football team, because he didn't crown himself Heisman in the preseason. He
Correct.
didn't say that
Correct.
Texas was going to dominate the SEC. He had the other mentality. He was saying how there's a red dot on everybody else. Like
Yeah.
he was really embracing underdog, and everybody else kind of put all these expectations on him, and now he has to deal with it.
Yeah.
And there's really no teacher like experience, and I do think that he's learning, but just all those things adding up, like it's been a incredibly challenging start for him, but I don't blame him for that. I think
Yeah.
anybody in that situation would struggle similar to what he has.
I mean, I agree with you. I don't think that Arch created any of the circumstances around himself, and I don't think Lagway did either. Outside of both of
Mhm,
them just being incredibly talented, but we didn't put them on our preseason Heisman ballots because they told us to. We did it
mhm.
because basically everybody else told us to. I will say Johnny Manziel and Tim Tebow could have something to say about young guys and embracing pressure, and but again, it is definitely not an easy situation to be in. What's your belief that he can kind of get it together, turn it around?
I do think he'll progress pretty solidly throughout the year. I think you'll see him slowly keep taking steps, becoming more accurate, more confident, things like that. Because his blood literally runs with elite quarterback play. I don't think it's a matter of if, but
Right,
when he does figure it out. And this year, in my opinion, at least, it was never going to be his Heisman year. I
right.
think next year, especially if we see good growth through the rest of the year, 2027, I think could be the year of Arch.
Yeah. I mean, he started like 3 games last year, right? So and I do always think back to Steve Spurrier talking about like, hey, if he was that good, why was he on the bench
Mhm.
behind Quinn Ewers? And that he's not wrong, right? But I am interested to see how he grows. He does have the pedigree. He's got the football knowledge, and he's at a place where they're going to provide him weapons.
Mhm.
Speaking of weapons, Texas has new and returning weapons that UF fans should know about. Who are they?
I'll start with returning. So Jarrett Gibson at running back, he's a familiar name if you follow Florida
Wanted
recruiting.
him.
Yeah, really bad because he had a good game against Florida last year. He's got 4.3 yards per carry on the year this season. And then some new faces. Parker Livingstone at receiver. You had all eyes on Ryan Wingo, DeAndre Moore, Jamie French coming in. Then here comes this little old three-star who's going to lead the team in receiving to this point with 232 and 3 scores. He's been playing awesome. And James Simon, another running back. He's a freshman, 4.5 yards per carry. He hasn't scored yet, but Texas has 7 rush touchdowns, and 5 of them are Arch. So these running backs are really just getting them down there, and then Arch is punching it in. But multiple running backs above 4 yards per carry, being able to mix in Gibson and Simon is a really good dynamic duo of a rushing attack for Texas.
I'm going to keep going to these questions, but I'm laughing at these comments over here. I see a lot of low scoring games, and me consuming a lot of bourbon is
Yeah.
one of these. I also love that we have some Miami fans. Canes for Life is hanging out with us. I love that we have, incorporated some of these rival fans. I guess maybe they're excited about our misery, but
I don't blame him at all.
listen, we're misery loves company, and that is where we are. Let's talk defensively about Texas. They've been very good this year. They played Ohio State incredibly close, but then they've also played 3 nobodies. How do you think that unit compares to some of the other good defenses Florida have seen? Miami, LSU.
I do think overall it's just as good, if not better, because in the country right now, they're second in points per game allowed and fourth in yards per game. That is 3 cupcake teams, but a bad defense or an average defense wouldn't have those numbers against anybody. And Ohio State is still a good data point for being able to hold an offense down. I mean, Michael Taft is one of the best DBs in the country. You have Colin Simmons and Anthony Hill in that front 7 who are absolute aliens. And Leona Lafau and Ty Anthony Smith, they're like quote unquote surprises at linebacker because they were kind of behind on the depth chart. But these guys are also just ultra talented players, and you're really seeing that whole unit come together. As a team, Texas has 11 sacks so far this year. They're absolutely living in opposing backfields. This defense is really good at all 3 levels.
You're really giving me a whole lot of confidence here. Well, let's talk a little bit about the trenches. Texas's O line against Florida's good but banged up defensive front.
Yeah, the D line has really been a letdown all season for the Gators. Even when they were healthy, they weren't really producing good pressure rates, good sacks. I mean, they only have 3 sacks all year, and injuries have only made that worse for the production. Jaden Woods and Tyreek Sapp, they're the bright spots, right? Jaden Woods, that freshman, and
Yeah.
Tyreek Sapp coming back. They each have a sack apiece, but it's really been hard for that unit to generate much of anything, especially consistently so far this season. And the Texas offensive line, they've only given up 3 sacks all year, which again, competition, but you have the Ohio State data points. That O-line is still pretty good. Texas's O-line is going to be full of talented guys, regardless. So they need to find something or someone to give them a spark. I do think Jaden Woods could be that guy, but he does need some help. He'll need Sapp to get some pressure off the edge. He'll need guys like Boyro, who I believe is going to play this week, to get some good push up the middle. So Florida still has the guys. The question was never how much talent do they have, but can they put this together and have a good day on Saturday?
It is really interesting that Florida's defensive front hasn't been able to generate the sacks this year because Florida's defense has been pretty stellar, honestly. There were, some lapses in judgment late against Miami, which I think they were just exhausted at that point. But I mean, through the LSU game, they'd allowed 3 touchdowns the entire season. And so how do you, I guess, I don't know, wrap your head around the fact that they aren't producing sacks, but they are producing stops?
It speaks to the depth of talent really on this whole Florida roster, right? Because I think both offense and defense do have that talent. But I mean, you know, defenses can't really be made or broken by a defensive push because no matter how good your secondary is, if the quarterback has 4 seconds to throw,
Right.
they're probably going to carve you up. But that hasn't really happened for Florida, even despite the pressure rate not being good. So there's such a good depth of talent at all 3 levels. I mean, you can circle like 3 guys at each position group who would start just about anywhere else. So the talent profile of this defense is incredible. And also just their willpower, because like you just said, like it gets exhausting being such a dominant unit compared to your offense. So
Yeah.
them staying so focused and so locked into being the best that they can and putting Florida in a position to win has been really impressive.
We talk about that this defense has kept them in games much longer than they probably should have. They've even produced points in some of these games, but at some point there's a breaking point, right? Where
Mhm.
you can only hold on for so long. I am not in any way predicting that that breaks against Texas. I would have to think that at home against the Longhorns, a game that has been circled in red on the calendar because it is, exciting. Texas hasn't been to the swamp in like something like 80 years. I want to say it was like, I don't know, 1917 or something crazy. It's been a very, very long time. But, uh, you know, is that a risk? Is there a risk that this defense is just kind of had it?
I really do think there is, especially if we go into the locker room and Florida's got like 6 points.
Yeah.
Because I mean, at the end of the day, I don't want to judge the character of these kids. but they're college kids, right? Like this is not like the NFL where you kind of expect to see, a little more drive and not necessarily so much let up. I'm definitely concerned a little bit about, like, let's say this game is 10-6 at halftime, something like that, and the defense kind of goes in there and just loses their minds. Like, we just can't keep doing this. I mean,
Yeah.
like you said, the exhausting part, like, it's not even all mental, it's just physical because they know how fast and how strong they have to play every single snap. So I am a little worried about there being a breaking point, but to your point, I do think coming back home will help prevent that to a certain extent.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm predicting, which I'm not predicting anything this point in our broadcast, but I could see it being more likely a break against Texas A&M when you go
Mm.
on the road the next week. I do think that they will do their best to put on a show at home. Um, okay, so we've talked about where Texas has an advantage, which is honestly most positions. But where do you think UF fans should be most concerned about with this Texas team?
I do think it's the Longhorns front seven. Like I said, 11 sacks through 4 games, and that's really been the pressure with the problem with Florida. Like Lagway's been pressured a lot. He's been forced to roll out, which I do also think is kind of a bad habit of his to a certain extent, rolling out to the
Yeah,
right. But regardless, he needs time if this offense is going to, like he said, pop this week. So if Texas can terrorize the Florida offensive line and not give Lagway time to even get the ball out to those playmakers,
yeah.
it'll be the same script as we saw against LSU and Miami.
I don't want to see that. That does not. You're really not giving me the confidence
I
here,
do wish
Will.
I had more to be happy about right now. I'm sorry for what I'm saying.
Okay, well, let's try. Um,
Mm.
let's try. What do you think Texas folks who may be watching this should be the most concerned about from Florida?
The crowd, because this is only Arch's second road start. We saw it at Ohio State. He was not very sharp. His confidence was off. He was missing throws. My question is, what kind of swamp do we get?
Yeah,
I thought back from past years into games where I thought the crowd was actually game changing. I thought of Tennessee in 2023, Utah in 22, Auburn in 19, LSU in 18. Like, those were games that Florida got a push from the 95,000 behind them to win that game. And in my opinion, the Gators are going to need that from the crowd to really get into Arch's head,
yeah,
mess with the Texas offense, and really be able to win this game. But I'm worried, like, is that the environment that shows up, especially if Florida gets the ball first and goes 3-and-out? Because I think that the Gators
yeah,
could lose the crowd
yeah.
really fast if it's a slow start. So I think a lot of it has to do with the atmosphere and obviously just can the defense keep Florida in the game because you never know, maybe if we just get one seam shot, that's all we need is one seam shot. You can put 7 points on the board and change the game. So we'll see what happens.
Well, and I do, the stadium, like you said, the stadium will be in it at the very beginning. It's
Mhm.
how long you keep them in it. And that is why I had Jerry Hamilton on yesterday. And one of the things he said is he felt like the first quarter was
Mhm.
so insanely important. And not that it's not always important, but it can determine what the crowd does, which is going to determine in somewhat what these two teams do. I saw a tweet today that Billy Napier said he was so excited to get back home in front of the home crowd, and somebody retweeted it and said, "You won't feel that way as soon as you go 3-and-out."
Yeah,
And
it's just an aggressive comment. He better execute well if he wants to actually stand by that.
I mean, we have these conversations about his press conferences all the time. It
Mhm.
is the only thing that he does worse than play calling, but I digress. Maybe he'll be right this time. We'll cross our fingers. How much do you think confidence plays into this game? I think Texas picked some up against Sam Houston. Florida didn't. Florida lost to Miami. They lost to LSU. Obviously, USF was probably the most heartbreaking out of all of those games. But how big a role does that play in determining the outcome of this?
It's massive, especially when you're the underdog, because you need to believe that you can beat this team. Like I'll bring up Vanderbilt. Like they believe they can beat everybody. That's why they've been pulling upsets for the past 2 years. So Florida needs that. And we talk about rat poison all the time. To a certain extent, I do think that sitting around for 13 days and going to practice, hearing about how much you suck, I do think that can help this team kind of come out and want to prove everybody wrong and be sort of a confidence boost. Like, we can go out there, we believe in ourselves, we believe in the guy next to me, we can go out there and play a good game. But confidence is going to be incredibly important trying to take down this Texas team.
Yeah. Well, hopefully they can find some. Hopefully the crowd can give them a boost. Hopefully the bye week did something. DJ Lagway seemed confident in the press conference. I don't know. I guess we'll see. But how much can that bye week change? What can Florida do during this bye week to improve? And is there enough time for it to make a difference? Obviously,
And
getting everybody healthy
yeah,
helps.
I do believe it'll be pretty big for Lagway because now that we're a few weeks in, like Maybe now he's gotten his fall camp in, even though it's come at the expense of 3 games where he hasn't looked his best. I do think Dallas getting him back, he could be a big time game changer immediately, but we still need
Yes.
to see an effort to throw the ball to the receiver outside. And I do think that, like I said, having this long, they just kind of stew in the last 3 losses. Like they know that this could be the final straw. If they can win this game, get some momentum back, maybe you get hot. If you lose this game, you're 1-4. You have to go back on the road to an 8 team. That'll probably be top 5 when you go there. Like that's when I really think you could see this go off the rails. So they know how big this game is, not just in general with Texas coming to town, but just like really for the togetherness of that team and the rest of their season. I do think having the bye week now is going to be a pretty big boost for Florida. Will it be enough? I can probably tell you that after the first 3 drives on Saturday.
They usually do decently well off of bye. Maybe we're gonna see something glorious. Okay, we're gonna play more or less, and then I want you to be thinking though, because I am gonna get your predictions from you. But guys, it is time to play our favorite game on this show. It's called the More or Less game. Thanks to Sleeper for their support. Use code PEAK, PEEK, for 100% match up to $100. Terms and conditions apply. So see Sleeper's terms of use for more information. Okay, first up is Arch Manning. More or less than 217.5 passing yards.
I'm going to say less because he has not had a game of more than 30 passing attempts yet this year. And his numbers, they were up above that 217 mark against 2 softer opponents. I just think he goes less because if we're predicting that the game might be a little lower scoring with both good defenses and both offenses that are so kind of yet to consistently click, I think that you won't see Texas and Sarkisian really put the ball in harm's way. They'll try and keep it on the ground with their good running backs. So I'll go less on Manning's passing yards.
Okay, more or less than 191.5 passing yards for DJ Lagway.
I'm saying more. I'm holding him to his words about saying the offense is going to pop. You get Dallas back. You have all these great wideouts. You've had 2 weeks to prepare. You have a good running game behind you trying to open up the downfield pass. I'm going to go more on Lagway because he's got to go make something happen in this spot.
Okay, I like that. That's ballsy. All right, more or less than 26.5 receiving yards for Jack Endries.
I'm going to say more because in the 2 games where he's caught more than one ball, he's gone for 50 yards and 52 yards. So with volume, obviously, comes more yards for injuries. He had a small injury issue a few weeks ago, but he should be good to go now. I think that Florida's defense is going to take away receivers often enough and have a good enough presence on the front 7 to where Andrews is kind of that release option, or maybe just for a little check down, or he opens up because the DBs are so focused on those wideouts. I think he'll get enough catches to get up to 26.5.
All right, let's talk about our boy Jaden Baugh. We're always talking about run the ball. More or less than 66.5 rushing yards.
I'm saying more. I mean, just give him the ball. He's getting 6 yards per carry on the year on an offense that is suffocating and not even producing anything. And he's still got 5.9 yards per carry. If they just feed him, good things will happen. You have to think, oh, with the bye week, they realize maybe we should give this guy a few more carries. So I'll go more with Ball.
All right, let's go to another Texas wide receiver, Ryan Wingo. More or less than 48.5 receiving yards.
I'll say less. He's only reached 4 catches twice this year, and he's only surpassed a mark of 35 yards when he hit 93 against Sam Houston. So that was his big game, but everything else has been down in the 30s and even the teens. I'm saying less partly because of why I said more for injuries and less for Manning. I'm just not sure that the passing game is really going to be the focus for Texas, and when it is, I think it'll be safe. It'll be over the middle to their big body tight end, so I'm going less on Wingo.
All right, now because he happens to be Florida's favorite target right now, more or less than 32.5 receiving yards for Hayden Hansen.
Really, my only note here, it says less out of spite. That's all I wrote down. But I do think that getting Dallas back will, put a little more faith in the receiver room, and there has to be some sort of explosive with this Florida offense, and that's going to come from their receivers. But numbers wise, Hansen is averaging 8.2 yards per catch. Obviously, that's not gospel, but it does give me 3 Hansen catches that Napier can get out of his system, and I'll still hit that less. So I'm going less for Hansen.
All right, from your lips to God's ears. Now it is time for Will to give his prediction.
Yeah, so I spent most of this episode talking about how bad Florida is. Now this is not a good matchup, but I really do want to be positive because I'm traveling for it. I'm going to be there. I don't want to toot my own horn. I have a pretty good record in Gainesville. I think they look up and they see me and they're like, okay, now he's here. We have to figure this out. So I'm going to be loud in there until I'm given a reason not to. I think Florida is in wounded animal mode at home. This is a game I think we can agree for Billy Napier's job. Hopefully, in theory, right? So I'm going to do it. 24-20 Florida. I think they figure it out. Lagway's had the bye week. He'll have a little more prep. The defense, I think all it takes is one opening drive touchdown from the Gators or something like that to really get them some more fire to go close it out. I think Arch on the road could be a problem still. So I'll take Florida. Why
Oh
not?
my goodness, look at that. Okay, and it would be such a Billy Napier thing to
Ultimate Napier win to win this game by 13.
listen. All right, well, you can either hang out with us or we can let you go and I'll finish up the rest of the show. It's totally up to you.
I think I gotta go get a pub sub or something. I'm kind of
All right.
starving.
You go eat some dinner and I will wrap up this preview. Thanks for hanging out with us. Tell everybody where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, I'm on W Thomas Sports on Twitter and Tailgate Talk SEC just about everywhere else.
All right. Well, we will see you same time next week. All right. Hopefully, we have some positive things to talk about, but we'll see.
Thanks, Allie.
All right. Have a good night. All right. For all of you that are sticking around, let's talk a little bit about what Florida needs to do to win, what Texas needs to do to win. Okay. So Saturday in the swamp, 3:30 kick. Texas hasn't been to Gainesville in a very, very long time right now. They are favored by 7. The over-under is 41 and a half. And I really do think that this is a must win for both teams, but for very different reasons. It's for Texas, they already dropped a game to Ohio State. And a second loss this early in the season would mean that there is no margin of error for the rest of the season. They still have Oklahoma, Mississippi State, Vanderbilt, Georgia, Texas A&M. They also have Kentucky and Arkansas, but I'm at least chalking those up as, those should for sure be wins. But they have all of those really good teams left to play. And it gets really sticky whether a 3-loss team makes it to the playoffs or not. So I really do think they've got to win this. It is a must win for Texas because it gives them a little wiggle room the second half of the season. And for Florida, it is do or die as well. Simply put, each week the team takes the field, they are fighting for Billy Napier's job. And I do believe that this team needs to win 8 games through the season to save that job. They currently have 1. That leaves no margin for error. They have to figure out beating Texas. Now, if they don't beat Texas, do I think Napier is going to be fired next week? No. Do I think he'll be fired? Yes, but I don't know that he'll be fired after this week. But winning this game is a huge step in the right direction. It is do or die for the Gators. And this isn't the matchup we expected when we started predicting this game over the summer and then in August. We expected both of these teams to come in 3-1, 4-1, undefeated, something like that. And that's not what we're getting, mainly with Florida. But I do feel like Texas doesn't look like we expected them to, even though they're sitting at 3-1 and their only loss is a close game to Ohio State. I just don't think they've been impressive to the eye than we expected them to be. But it's still an interesting matchup. It is still an important game, but just for kind of different reasons than we expected heading into this season. Let's talk for a little bit about what Florida needs to do to win. I think they need to protect DJ Lagway and they need to limit turnovers. If you can keep him upright with quick reads, the correct reads, and a steady run game, I think that can go a long way. Florida can't give Texas free possessions. To go along with that, I think they need to establish the run early. Lean on on Jaden Baugh. He can control the tempo. He can keep the Longhorn defense honest. Florida's run game is the best part of their offense. We need to see it more. I also think they need to pressure Arch Manning. This is not something Florida's D-line has done particularly well this season, but they need to get pressure on him. Mix blitzes and disguised coverages, disrupt his rhythm, force him to make mistakes. I know everybody wants to talk about Arch like he's the second coming, but he's young and inexperienced still. Get him to make some mistakes. We also need to win the red zone. How sick are Florida fans of the amount of times that Florida has gotten into the red zone the last couple of years and not scored, or gotten into those 3rd and long situations that they can't get out of? They need to finish drives with points and force Texas to settle for field goals. Texas has had a problem in the red zone too. figure out a way to win the red zone and third downs. And lastly, they got to stay disciplined in the little things. Avoid costly penalties, win special teams, use the crowd momentum to your advantage. Don't have stupid penalties. I know I already said it. I'm going back to it again, though. Play clean football. So, on the other side of that, what does Texas need to do to win? Well, first of all, they have to protect Arch Manning, keep him clean. Our front seven has been banged up, but it's good. Texas has to protect Manning so he can settle in and avoid turnovers himself. I really feel like I could write that about Manning and I could write it about Lagway. It's true for both. It's important. Texas will need to win the line of scrimmage, dominate with an offensive line that is really good at both run blocking and pass protection. Let your defensive front seven, if you're Texas, collapse Florida's run game. Force Lagway into long passing downs. Lagway hasn't been good through the air. If you're Texas, you want to force him to beat you that way. I think that they're going to attack Florida's secondary. I think that Florida's secondary has been decent this year. They've shown fight. They've shown flashes of being really good, but also some judgment lapses. And if Manning can stretch the field, hit explosive plays, that will take the swamp out of it, and that will go a long way in helping Texas. And then same thing for them. They have to capitalize in the red zone. I do think whoever capitalizes there is going to win this game. They can't settle for field goals either. Think about how much Florida has hung around in games by bending but not breaking defensively. I think that touchdowns are what could make the difference in this one. And for both teams, the swamp environment is going to be a 12th man. Both teams need to stay disciplined, avoid penalties. And for Texas, if they let that crowd noise or that momentum rattle them, it could be a problem for them. Let's talk a little bit about key matchups in this one, and then I'll get to some of y'all's comments on the side. Lagway versus Manning. This is still the matchup we want to see. It maybe doesn't have quite the hype as it did in August, but I think these are two incredibly talented players that we're just waiting to see have a breakout game. And, Manning got some confidence against Sam Houston last week. Lagway needs some confidence. And listen, if you play well against Texas, you're going to have confidence in a hurry. It is the marquee matchup of this game. I also think that Texas's rushing attack versus Florida's defense is going to be important. Texas is going to look to establish the run in the same way that Florida's going to. These are kind of mirror images of each other. They don't want to force Manning to have to do that much. Therefore, they need their rushing attack to be successful. Florida's front seven is banged up. Can they do that? And then I want to see Florida's offensive line withstand what I think might be the best front seven that Florida has seen, which is saying something because LSU's was good. Miami's was even better. I think there's a possibility Texas is even a tick better than Miami's is. And that is a matchup that is going to prove critical. Florida's offensive line was supposed to be one of the best in the country this year. We haven't seen that. We haven't seen consistent line play. Is Saturday the day that we finally see that? All right, guys, let me see what some of your comments say. Let's check it out. Oh, everybody likes pub sub. I like pub sub too. The line right now, I believe, is set at Texas by 7, but it has fluctuated kind of between 7.5 and 6.5. Napier running the offense and the defense with a lot of injuries. I think the wheels come off on Saturday. Liam says we need the W badly. Go Gators. Garrett says, a question I can't stop asking myself is, in the long run, what's better? Having Florida win, knowing Napier still isn't the guy, or Florida losing to push him closer to the edge of being let go? I can't tell you how to fan. I can just tell you that I can't be the fan that roots for Florida to lose. I will root for my team to win every single week. I do kind of feel like a firing is inevitable. It's just kind of like when it happens. But, if Florida could rip off 7 in a row, I'm here for it. We shall see. Liquid Flame says Texas hasn't really played anyone but Ohio State. That's true. They have not played anyone but Ohio State. But Ohio State is very, very good, and they played them very close. Run the ball, play QB2 if DJ struggles. I think they've made it pretty clear they won't, but that would be interesting to see. And I do think they need to run Jaden Ball, whether or not DJ Lagway struggles. Um, Sintar says, I don't think Napier gets fired, even if he loses the rest of the year. I think Napier will finish out his contract so Florida doesn't have to pay yet another coach who is no longer with the team. I don't think the boosters are allowed that to happen, honestly. Got to beat the Mannings. Manning is just a name, doesn't mean he's automatically good. That's true. Peyton never beat UF in 4 tries. That is true. Allie Peak should coach the team. Everything she says is spot on, but Napier won't figure it out. Um, Listen, I have been volunteering to coach special teams for years. No one takes me up on it. Gator fans won't back down. I won't back down. Napier's very good at losing. For him, it's an art, and the next game is the perfect the next game is the perfect canvas. The Texas game, I think, is what that's supposed to say. Win as many games as we can and tell Sunbelt Billy he's still got to go. This crap's getting old real quick. Yeah, I'm here for that. I want UF to win, but I don't see it happening with this coaching staff. Napier has no incentive to change. That's true. Napier is the best at losing UF in 76 years. Guys, don't remind me. All right, I'm about to tell you the 5 things I'm looking for in this game. But first, I want to give some love to Alumni Hall. If you are going to Gainesville for the Texas game on Saturday, make sure you stop by Alumni Hall for all the very best game day apparel. This shirt is actually from there. It is one of my favorites. Their selection is elite, and you guys need to make sure you're stopping by their location on Archer Road if you're coming to town for the game, or you can shop online at alumnihall.com. We appreciate Alumni Hall for their support, and make sure you tell them that Allie Peak sent you. Okay, 5 things I am looking for Florida to win this game. 1, can Florida rally the troops? It is incredibly difficult to continue to get up for games when you are losing. It is actually one of the things that I think Coach Napier does the best, though, is not lose the locker room. Last year, they were able to retain the locker room. They had a remarkable turnaround the second half of the season. They ended up keeping Ole Miss and LSU from the playoffs, beat Florida State. It was a great ending to the season, and it would have been easy to lose that locker room, and he didn't. I think it's even more difficult this year to not lose the locker room. So where are they at? Are they still a team? Did they circle the wagons? They're still playing for each other. Can they get up for this game? 2 is, can they play disciplined? We have watched these teams make critical errors at the most inopportune times over and over and over again. Kills momentum, kills drives, loses ball games. Can we play disciplined? And can DJ Lagway make good decisions? We went from last year and a stellar freshman campaign for him where we, every once in a while saw some freshman mistakes, but that's okay because his electric plays way outweighed those poor decisions. But this season has been really lackluster. And whether that's the injury that's still nagging or whether that's just all of the time off or whether that's what he's being coached to do, we don't really know. But they're going to need him to play mistake-free football if they're going to have a chance in this game. The number 4 thing I'm looking for is run the damn ball. Jaden Baugh is one of the best running backs, not only in the SEC, but in the country. He's averaging 5.8 yards a carry. Give him the ball and make them stop him. And then special teams. Florida's special teams have been decent this season. Punting has been good. Field goals have been good. I would love to see a breakout play, a punt return, a kickoff return, something that sways the outcome of this game. In close ball games, which I do believe this will be, special teams can make the difference. I want to see it. So this is not a thing I'm looking for, but this is kind of a prediction here. If Florida can hold Texas to under 20 points and not turn the ball over, I think they can win. Now, is that what I think happens? Texas's elite defense plus a more balanced and more reliable offense gives them an advantage. Florida does have the pieces to make it close, though. This is a very talented football team, even though they haven't really played like it. But they can get it going, especially if they run the ball, limit mistakes. They have the ability to play this one close. But I think Texas is more likely to control the ground game and more likely to come up in critical moments. So because of that, I am predicting that Texas beats Florida 24-17. Actually like Will's prediction though, so I'm hoping that I'm wrong. I would love for Florida to pull this one out, but I do think that it's going to be close. I do think Florida will play better than we've seen them play. I just don't know that it's enough to get it done against Texas's offense. All right, guys. Well, I want to know. Let me know in the comments. Do you think Florida beats Texas? What do you think the outcome of this one is? What do you think is the biggest determining factor in this one? It's cheating to say Billy Napier's calling our plays. You got to go with something else. I appreciate you guys for tuning into this live. We got more content coming your way real soon, so make sure you are subscribed to the channel. I appreciate you. And if you are in the swamp on Saturday, look for me. Come say hi. As always, go Gators.